Hello, beautiful friends. It's Catherine here from Sacred Heart Alchemy and Divinely Inspired Feminine Leaders. It is a very powerful day today, and I wanted to take a few minutes to get on and just share some things that I'm aware of around this solstice and eclipse cycle that we're in, as well as some powerful astrological, hey Catherine, some powerful astrological alignments that I just wanted to share with you, mostly to point out what a really critical and powerful time we're in right here. Before I jump into content, I want to do one of my favorite things, just to kind of shift energy when I'm changing mood and sort of space. I'm actually going live from my basement today. I walked down the stairs and realized it was about 20 degrees cooler down here. So I decided to set up a little makeshift table and whatever. So here I am live with you from my basement. Feels so much better than upstairs. Anyway, let's just shift the energy for a moment and just recognize that today is, in the Northern Hemisphere, the day of the summer solstice, the longest day when we have the most light. That's always obviously been celebrated by Indigenous people and cultures long before us. And it's particularly potent this year because of this triad of eclipses that we are right in the middle of. Tomorrow will be another eclipse, which I will speak about in a moment. But first, let's just take a moment and shift the energy. As you know, these are some favorite tools of mine. Just to bring in some sound and some vibration. To create a sacred container to mark the space where we're together, even as we are physically apart, as a sacred space, set apart from our usual day-to-day, hey Jordan, set apart from our usual day-to-day routines and concerns and awarenesses, and just taking a moment to allow the sounds to just ripple through your energy body, through your mental and emotional and physical bodies, and allow it to bring you into sort of this container. So it's been a little crazy, right? I think it's a time that, well, I know it's a time that, although it has been predicted, none of us could have imagined what this time would look like. And I know I've said this on other videos that I've shared with you, that for myself, having been, sort of gone through an awakening about 25 years ago, and therefore reading for 25 years now, that there would come a time in our ascension process, in the movement of planet Earth from a dense three-dimensional reality, if you will, into a higher vibrating, more crystalline, Christ-like, crystal-like, lighter, right? 5D reality. And all of those things that I read years ago, whether it doesn't matter who the author was, or whether it's a book or a blog or something that I was listening to, or things that I was getting through my own meditation, there was always talk of how at a certain point in time, the structures that had been in place for thousands of years, the institutions, the educational system, the churches, the patriarchy, the economic system, the banking system, basically the power system, right? Power over that had been built up upon energies that were not imbalanced, that were not about equality, but more about some getting ahead others at the expense of others. And what I was reading and hearing was that all of those things had to collapse in order, or would collapse in order for a new world to be born, right? As I, called it, as so that we could create heaven on earth. And I just had no idea how that could actually happen. Like, how could all of those structures and institutions sort of fall apart, right? And how could something else grow up, blossom, come to fruition in that space of destruction? And I believe that we are in the middle of that transformation right now. And this period of time that we're in, certainly, we know that life is in a place we'd never imagined, and it will never go back to the way it was. And that's an opportunity, right? Crisis and challenge is an opportunity to do something different, to create something different. And I see, I think that we're all seeing that that's happening. But I wanted to put some context to this in terms of what's going on astrologically and sort of, cosmically, if you will. And I will do a disclaimer that this is not my area of expertise. I'm not an astrologer. I'm not, someone who understands, the movement of the planets and the intersection and all of the energies that happen. But I listen enough and I read enough to know that there are very powerful alignments and conjunctions that happen that bring with them opportunities for major shifts in how we do our lives. The other piece that I want to say about this is, I'm obviously doing this live in the Divinely Inspired Feminine Leaders group, and I'm doing that for a reason, because if you're in this group, more so than, maybe just on my personal page, I believe with every cell of my being that you are awakened to the fact that you are here to do something on this planet. Maybe you're already doing it to some level, to some degree. Maybe you're just awakening to that. But if you're here, it has been awakened in you. And I just want to emphasize as much as I possibly can that this really is such a critical time for you to step up into whatever it is that you're feeling called to do. And you may not have a clear picture of that, but opportunities may present themselves that all of a sudden you resonate with, that sort of just lands for you in a way that says, yes, that's a place I can show up. That's a place where I can learn something or bring my particular area of expertise, or challenge myself to step forward or have a voice or be more visible or be more vocal, right? In ways perhaps that you haven't been either willing or able to do before. And every aspect of the universe, whatever you believe in, and Kathy Diggs, I'm kind of chuckling because of our little exchange the other day, but whether you believe that we are star beings, whether you believe that we are originally created with 12 strands of DNA from the 12 star nations that came together to contribute their DNA, right? And that we've been dumbed down to 2 streams, and now we're reawakening, we're reopening all of our capacity, whether you believe in angels or aliens or ascended masters, or just one source, one divine consciousness, whatever your personal understanding is, just know that all of those forces are behind us right now. What we might call our spiritual, right? Our spiritual support system. But not only that, also where we are in terms of our movement around the universe. We are in this part, I don't know how to say this, in our cycle around the sun. There's a 26,000 year what they call precession of the ages. And at a certain point, the Earth moves through a portion of the universe where there is a density of light, of photon light. And as we move through that portion of the universe, we are, whoops, I got to go walk upstairs and get my battery because I just got my low battery message. So we are in that place in the universe where we are getting bombarded powerfully. Excuse me while I bend down, grab my charger, and hopefully find a place to plug it in that's near where my little setup is. So we are in this very, very powerful place right here and right now. I'm working on it, folks. I might have to turn this little setup completely around so I can, you're going to see a different part of the basement now. So let me just, with that said, and that little distraction, you see my hula hoop back there. Let me just tell you a little bit about where we're at and why this is such a powerful time. So, any astrological event, any moon event, sun event is very, very powerful to begin with. So solar and lunar eclipses always come in pairs, and they're like a gateway between these sort of cosmic events in between the solar and the lunar eclipse. And they're always an opportunity to step more deeply into a higher vibration of divine light. So we had an eclipse, a full moon eclipse 2 weeks ago. We have a new moon eclipse today, and we're actually going to have another eclipse in early July. But in addition to the eclipses, we're also obviously in the summer solstice, right? And solstices have always been honored and revered as passages of times of major change, of times of gratitude for moving into more light, and then, through the winter solstice coming back into the light again. And so the solstice is also a very powerful time. And this solstice is particularly powerful because right now there are 5 planets in retrograde. Now, I'm sure you've heard, Mercury's in retrograde, right? And they're all sort of admonitions about what you should or shouldn't do, or what it's going to feel like, or whatever. But at this time, we have Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in retrograde. And Neptune will come into retrograde on June 23rd. So there are going to be 6 planets retrograding. And basically just means they appear to slow down as the Earth is making its revolution, right? But retrogrades are challenging because things do slow down, and, it's not a great time to, sign legal contracts or possibly to travel because there's sometimes snafus. But the real importance of retrograde, retro, right? Just listen to it. Retro is a time to do all the R things: revisit, review, reflect, reconnect. It's a slower time, almost like this whole COVID thing. Now we have retrograde in there as well. It's a time to really slow down, review, reflect. And it could also be reignite, right? So it's a time to slow down, do our inner work, and then bring something new forth. So we've got these 6 planets in retrograde, reflecting, revisiting, reassessing situations at hand. But they're also about discovery, which means that truths come to the surface during retrogrades. Things, just as we have seen in the COVID, things, because it appears more slow and things slow down a little bit, the opportunity to go inward and reflect allows for discovery of things that perhaps it allows us to rediscover things that maybe in our busy lives, we haven't taken the time to do. So today we have the solstice. Tomorrow we have a new moon solar eclipse, which is even more important because it happens in the sign of Cancer. Now, again, I'm not an astrologer, but what makes this particularly potent is that we have the solstice in Cancer, we have the new moon in Cancer, and Cancer is considered a very highly charged, it's in 0 degree of Cancer, I should say, very highly charged, and it indicates new beginnings that are both life-changing and revolutionary. And I would say new beginnings, not only on a cosmic level, but also on a personal and individual level. We know, spiritually speaking, that the inner and the outer are reflections of each other, right? As within, so without. Then nothing happens out there without it impacting us in here, and nothing happens in here without it impacting something out there. So this new moon solar eclipse is sort of pushing us all toward kind of a new timeline, personally and universally. It's also called the fire ring eclipse because of the particular alignment of it, where the sun, the moon comes, how does this work? I forget whether the moon's in front of the sun or behind the sun, but one way or another, you can see because the moon is smaller than the sun, you can see like a ring of fire, the outside of the sun around the moon. So there's something even more potent about this particular eclipse called an annular eclipse. And back to Cancer for a moment. Cancer is symbolic of the mother's womb, right? So the moon's dark shadow represents this collective rebirth that's about to take place. Cancer is all about your emotional security and your inner foundation. It's nurturing, deeply empathic. So this eclipse is going to remind you to have more compassion for yourself and for the people around you, right? The maternal aspect of Cancer is going to be very, very present this time. So tune into your own nurturing nature, whether you're biologically a mother or not. We all have, that nurturing energy within us. So reflect on your emotional needs, continue to think and act and feel in a compassionate way toward yourself and to everything that you're seeing going on around you. So we're in a time of deep transformation, but we're also in a time of amazing rebirth. And again, we just see this reflected in everything that's going on in our personal lives as well as in the world at large. So before I go, I got to bring my computer over here. Let me see if I can do this. Hold on 1 second. This is really called improvising. I can't just bring my computer because it's old and it doesn't have a charge, so I have to keep it plugged in as well. But I have something on here that I want to read for you. This is a prayer that I read years ago, and I just love it. And so I share it on every solstice, winter and summer solstice. So just before I go into the prayer, I just want to reiterate again, if you're here, it's because you're waking up or you've been awakened for some time. You're doing your deep healing work, right? Sometimes happily and joyfully, sometimes a little more painfully. But we cannot step into the highest expression of who we are unless and until we are willing to go deep into the shadow. We are seeing this again individually, we are seeing it collectively. We cannot heal racism in this country until we are willing to go deep into our shadow of subtle and persistent institutional systemic racism that has been part of our country's history. I grew up in an all-white neighborhood. I had one African-American young man in my high school for 4 years. I know that I grew up with a set of beliefs and fears and misconceptions and, frankly, ignorance around the reality of what it means to be African American in this country. And so I'm just putting that out there because nothing can be healed until we shine a light on it, until it comes up out of the shadow. And that's when we have an opportunity. Once it's revealed, we have an opportunity for it to be healed. So however that lands for you, whatever, if there's a piece for you that feels like is yours to do, whether it's educating yourself, whether it's joining some kind of forum, whether it's taking a look at your own subconscious racism as it comes up, just be aware that this is part of this amazing period of time that we're in. You know, this is what they called, this is ushering in the age of Aquarius. This is ushering in a golden age. This passage through that part of the universe, the cosmos that I talked about, is going to last for another 2,000 years. So we are literally ushering in right now, in our lifetimes, one of the major shifts that will happen on our planet for 2,000 years. So put, whatever's happening on a day-to-day basis, whatever the fears, whatever the concerns, whenever you've, maybe notice yourself going down the rabbit hole, and trust me, been there, done that, just know that there is something much larger going on, this transformation, than we can even begin to wrap our heads around. And we have all of the support of the universe at our backs. So with that said, I'm going to read this prayer. It's called a solstice prayer, and so very appropriate for today. And I don't know who the author is, so I can't give credit, but if you're out there, thank you for this beautiful prayer. Beginning now, I choose to walk in a new way on planet Earth, to attune to her as I remember cosmic truth and embody my divine purpose. I forgive myself and others and open my heart to receive the infinite blessings of divine love flowing throughout the universe and coursing through my very veins. As I attune to the earth, the moon, the planet, and star beings in the heavens, I breathe with universal forces of creation. Divine source enters me, filling my cells and the spaces of my being with pure love and light. I am healed, whole, and renewed. May I be gentle with myself and others as pain, fear, and suffering are released. I bless all I encounter and embrace my fellow beings, all situations and circumstances, all thoughts, feelings, and emotions as reflections of my own divinity. I joyfully claim my destiny as a force for positive change at this turning point in Earth's history. Together with my brothers and sisters of all colors and faiths, I will shape the future in ways that serve humanity's highest evolution and fulfill the needs of generations yet to come. Aligned in truth, I am. Wow. I have to say, I have been reading that prayer at least twice a year, probably for 10 years now. And it has never felt as relevant to me as it does right in this moment. The language about stepping into our divine purpose, the language about encountering and embracing all situations and circumstances, joining together with brothers and sisters of all colors and faiths and shaping the future of humanity's evolution for generations to come. I think that says it all. So I'm going to leave that there. And I am going to close the space. So with much light and love, I send you blessings on this day of solstice and the day before, the new moon eclipse, and I will see you all soon. Bye now.